What is up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Jack, obviously. So, now that everybody and their mother, their dog, their cat, their pet snake, their iguana, and maybe some of their body parts have talked about skill-based matchmaking, I thought now that the dust is just, well, actually, I don't know if the dust is ever going to settle on this fucking topic, but I just thought I'd give my 2 cents on it. It made all the sense in the world, so I figured, why not? Does skill-based matchmaking exist? Does it not exist? Is Drifter an exclusive ace right? Is the data too incomplete? Do they not really know what they're talking about compared to somebody who's gone to school for that kind of shit, or whatever the hell you want to call it? Is it a conspiracy? Are the good players the only ones affected by it to a certain degree, and the bad players are so bad that they're basically saying, you guys need to motherfucking adapt, man. Basically, skill-based matchmaking does not exist, so just adapt, man. What does Jack look like under the mask? Why does he wear a mask? What is he? Is he an alien? Possibly. Does he have a small penis? Definitely. Let's get on to the gameplay commentary, which is as always going to be uncut, unfiltered, uncircumcised, and relentless. Alright guys, so the topic of discussion is in fact skill-based matchmaking. Now, the thing is, overall, first of all, shout out to Drifter and Exclusive Ace. They probably worked their asses off in order to get us the video that they did with a decent amount of data, but yet at the same time data that was basically not as up to par as we wanted, but it's the best we've ever gotten up till now, at least. So shout out to those guys. They must, God knows how many hours they put into it and stuff like that. Could it been more in depth? Sure. Could have. I mean, but the thing is, like Drifter mentioned in today's video, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that even he doesn't know on how to handle that would basically give even better results. And on top of that, the game has a few hidden MMR things that keep it from being totally unveiled to us. You know, I guess they got to keep secrets here and there all the time from the public. But the thing is, long story short, there is a form of skill-based matchmaking, and that's nothing really new. The only thing is that it is a subject of huge debate between the Call of Duty players. And the majority of Call of Duty players, despite the majority not believing this, the majority of Call of Duty players are not good. Let's be real here. The majority of Call of Duty players are not good. And the thing is, they are not going to feel any form of skill-based matchmaking, especially the way a good player does, if simply they're not performing that well. The game has its ways, and every single Call of Duty, at least in the last 5 to 7 years or so, has implemented ways to protect players. Modern Warfare is the worst of this in terms of game design, but other than that, the other games in the series have pretty much, in some way, shape, or form, whether it's partially by game design or the hidden algorithm or whatnot for the matchmaking or whatever the hell it is, they do what they can to preserve people from getting their asses absolutely handed to them, because they're not going to have fun. They're going to leave, and they're not going to buy any DLC, or they're going to, request a refund on the game or whatever the deal is. It's a business. So they want to protect the people that are going to make them money. Pretty much how Activision is pretty much inclined by law to protect the shareholders or whatever the hell it is. They want to make them as much money as absolutely possible. They have to by law. So the thing is that skill-based matchmaking, long story short, it exists, but here's the thing. It doesn't exist as bad as as a lot of players have made it out to be, but at the same time, to defend those players, including myself, there are actually, more than ever, there are times to where you can run into a lobby and half of the players will be in the same skill level as you. Like, no doubt about it. Forget parties. We're talking even free-for-all. We're talking everything. As a matter of fact, the one that in terms of my personal experience, where I remember this the most, when it really hit hard, is in Black Ops 3, sometime during the first quarter of its life cycle, they had this update. And I swear, for the next 24 hours up until they fixed it, and everybody was bitching about it hardcore, like crazy, over Reddit, social media, you name it. And they had every right to, because this is what happened. I was playing free-for-all at the time. I like free-for-all. I play a lot of free-for-all. This gameplay right here is free-for-all. I just love free-for-all, and it really, I just love it. So anyway, I was playing free-for-all in Black Ops 3, and every single player in the lobby was a 2.3 up to a 4.5 in KD. And it pretty much lasted the entire day up until the next update went up. And that's the thing. They did an update. And then the next thing you know, in the free-for-all, I run into that shit. And it just didn't go away. You had a much higher concentration of good players in every single lobby. And we're not just talking good players. We're talking people that live and breathe Call of Duty, man. Like, seriously. And everybody was bitching about it. And then there was another update within the next 24 hours, which was pretty damn fast if you ask me, but it was an update. And after that update, things went back to normal. So the thing is, to one point or another, there is a form. And right now, here's the thing. If you're a bad player, the fact is you're not going to feel it as much. Because the average player in Call of Duty, with my experience and from what I've seen, is that they hold a 0.8 KD to a 0.9 KD, somewhere around there. So a bad player in Call of Duty is going to basically have a majority of those players being just that. Now, if you're a good player, you're going to basically be running into an average of 1.2 as opposed to an average of 1.8. So therefore, you're more likely to have a concentration of better players in your lobby than somebody that is, let's say, a complete noob at Call of Duty. And when it happens, especially if you're a solo player, it absolutely sucks. And let's not mention the other side of skill-based matchmaking, which is a whole team balancing algorithm. Now, if I had to choose one or the other, now granted, we know at this point that, well, in a lot of situations, so actually in some situations, it seems to be we either have one or the other, but in some situations, there's both. There's both the form of skill-based matchmaking and team balancing in a game. So the thing is, if I had to choose one over the other, I'd rather take the team balancing over the skill-based matchmaking. Okay, because for me, it's the lesser of two evils at this point. And also another thing that I've noticed, and as you guys know, going back to free-for-all in a minute, I play a lot of free-for-all. And as of lately, even in older Call of Duty games like this one, and with Black Ops 4, for instance, or this one, if I play a lot of free-for-all and my wins go up, my score per minute goes up, all that stuff goes up, because I'm playing solo. I'm not relying on teammates. I don't have to worry about teams taking out my team and dropping streaks on me and my team, right? So basically, what ends up happening is if you end up playing a lot of free-for-all and then you play a team-based game, from what I feel and from my experience, is that you're going to run into much harder lobbies when you play team-based games. It's what I've personally felt. And here's the thing. Everybody has their own experience. Like Drifter made another video today basically giving some additional feedback on the video that he made yesterday about skill-based matchmaking. Basically, long story short, he basically said it's our turn now, and that his education as well as his video data, as good as it was very limited, and it definitely isn't up to par in terms of what we would like as a community, as a Call of Duty community, and it goes way beyond just 5 games. We haven't even touched on other things like, does prestiging play a role, the amount of time played, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there's so many different possible variables that can go into it that can give us even more depth info. And the thing is, there's also different game modes to consider and all these different kind of things. So when you look at it, it is very complicated. And even with all the info we have now, it's really hard to say like whether it exists like we think it does or not. But at the same time, we do go on feelings. Now, does the Call of Duty community, including myself, and I'll put my own self on this, do we sometimes over-exaggerate because we're very passionate and because we're this or we're that? Yes, but at the same time, we're not completely wrong either, because there are those of us like myself and that basically play a lot of COD. And for the players that do this YouTube and content creation and streaming thing for a living, they play way more COD than I do, and I play a lot of COD. And these guys absolutely like play this as if it was an 8-hour plus a day job. So they know from personal experience in terms of what they go through. Do they get a whole bunch of easy lobbies to where they'll have endless amounts of gameplays because of the amount of time spent every day on the game? Absolutely. But at the same time, you're also going to get a higher concentration of sweaty lobbies. And it happens. And there's just so many different variables. And then there's people with net Dumas, there's people without net Dumas, there's also, again, so many variables that I can't even name them all in this video. So long story short, as we get closer to the end of the video here, where do I stand on the subject? It does exist, but I am willing to believe that it's not quite as brutal as we think it is, but I will say that there are times, thank God it's not the majority of the time. Well, at least, again, I'm not playing Modern Warfare, so I'm not going to speak for that game. But in terms of the majority of the time, thank God it's not as brutal as what I mentioned, what happened in Black Ops 3. But you do feel the difference when it does kick in. And if you're a player that's been playing for a long time, there's a lot of things that you feel. And there's a lot of things that you could tell by what other people play and stuff like that, that a person that's not as dedicated to Call of Duty just can't tell. They just judge by the cover and everything that's going on. But there's a whole bunch of things going on underneath that a good player does know and does feel and can sense it. It's kind of like a sixth sense, so to speak, with a game. You have to spend a certain amount of time playing something and being dedicated to a certain point and learning the game to a certain point and reaching a certain skill level with the game to be able to kind of, understand what I'm talking about. And for those of you guys that are good players, you guys will know with what I'm talking about. And hopefully you're, hopefully you're nodding your heads as you hear this commentary. But at the same time, some form of it exists, but it's not as brutal. And at the same time, there are times, because there is some sort of algorithm going on, as it's been proven, that it does and can get brutal, especially for the solo player. But yeah, that's pretty much where I stand. So in Modern Warfare, and here's some more proof, and I'm glad I remembered this before I decided to let this go. In Modern Warfare, there's the fact that ground war. Look at ground war, for instance. Everybody is saying that skill-based matchmaking is definitely, definitely not a thing when it comes to ground war. It's not even something to worry about. So, and the thing is, let's open up a little bit of conspiracy here for a second. Here's another thing. Are they trying to basically, in a weird way, in regular multiplayer public matches that's not ground war, are they trying to see or trying to weed out those players to only be competitive players, so that way the only people that play regular multiplayer are the competitive players, and then slowly but surely adding in different kind of modes like ground war or the new battle royale that's coming out for the casual players only? Because quite frankly, when it only comes to competitive COD, let's say there's 20 to 30% of them out there that are pub players, like top tier pub players, and everybody else is average, and the top 1% are pro players. So doesn't it make sense to kind of weed out the players that are not good in regular multiplayer and move them somewhere else, as opposed to, keeping them in pubs to get stomped? I don't know. I mean, that's just a theory, just a little conspiracy. But anyway, guys, that's all I got for this one. That's where I stand. So it is back and forth, but all in all, I do believe that it is in there. But at the same time, I do believe from the data, even though it's limited, that it's not as brutal. But yet again, it can get damn brutal. But anyway, that's all I got for this one. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed it, let me know. And if you didn't, let me know what I could do to make my videos better. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.